Hello, family. Welcome back to the Explore the Extraordinary podcast. My name is Betty, and today I'm joined by Hadil. And Hadil is a psychic medium, a channeler, and has an incredible story of awakening, 180-degree transformation. I love those stories. I'm here for it. I'm so grateful for your willingness to come on and serve our community here at IONS. And I'm going to toss it right over to you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Betty. I appreciate it. So I will start with what family I was born into. So I was born into a Muslim family in the Middle East. And then we migrated to Australia when I was 3. I would say that my parents, so I had gifts as a child, but in our culture, it wasn't something that we spoke about, but I couldn't understand why I would have these lucid dreaming. I'll give you an example of being 2 years old, and I said to my mum, "Oh God, I'm going to miss Grandma." And I was crying for 3 days straight. This is a story my mum told me. And on the 3rd day, my grandma died. So this was a continuous thing that I had throughout my life, like feelings, just having premonitions of certain events. And as I got older, growing up in a culture where we're confined to literally there's limitations everywhere. You're bred into worrying about what people think of you. Parents are worried about cultural aspects of things. So the anxiety around growing up as a child and getting to this expectation was quite hard, especially because I was so different. And I always felt different, but I couldn't ever pinpoint why I felt different. So as time went on, I discovered, that I was 12 years old when I wanted to know a little bit more about the Muslim religion. So I decided to go to a camp run by an organization, thinking that it was going to be a week away with friends. It changed my life. So I was 12 years old. And I remember it was 7 o'clock at night, and the lady was talking to us about religion and the Day of Judgment. And she was talking about the Antichrist and how this Antichrist had a third eye in the middle of his head. And this was down the track, scared the crap out of me when my third eye opened. So she was talking about how much God can, punish you for not praying 5 times a day. And I remember just thinking, shucks, I'm going to hell. Like, I'm 12. I haven't prayed a day in my life. I'm done for. And I remember leaving that camp. I was the only girl to leave without putting a scarf on. I just refused. And I started rebelling even at the camp when they were waking us up for 4 o'clock prayers. I was like, I'm not getting up. There's no way I'm getting up. So when I came home, I ended up having to sleep on my parents' bedroom floor for a good 6 months after this camp. I was mortified of the afterlife. That moment, I decided I'm going to become an atheist. There's no way. I'd rather believe in no God, nothing, than believe in something that frightened the living daylights out of me. And this is what fundamental religion does. So I secretly became a little atheist, and my parents were moderate Muslims, but it was more of a cultural stigma around, pretending to make sure that I'm fasting during Ramadan, which I never did. And as I became a teenager growing up in Australia, I really asserted myself into not conforming to culture. And I got in a lot of trouble for that. So there was a lot of trauma around my childhood. And I, became a really rebellious teenager. Well, normal to maybe a Caucasian family, not normal in my family. But I just didn't want to conform to the rules. Why is my brother allowed to do this? Why can't I do this? And these were the questions I consistently asked myself. I was a truth seeker even as a young age, but I didn't realize it until I had my awakening, and I was like, oh, that all made sense. So as time went on, I was plagued with anxiety as a teenager. I mean, I did some silly stuff. I got myself into really bad situations. At the time, like I said, I had gifts, so I actually picked up on energy. I didn't know it at the time. So when you're in a negative mindset and you're picking up on all these, attracting negative people in your life and you're negative, and yeah, I just got myself into a lot of trouble. And so in my culture, you don't leave the house until you get married. And I was like, not me. I'm going to do something different. I want to get out of here. I want to live like other girls. Like I want to live like the Caucasian girls, like the Australian girls, So the only way I found a way to move out without shaming mum and dad was joining the military. So at 21, I made the decision that I wanted to live out of home, and you couldn't really do that in my culture. So unless you're working and you have like a respectable job. So I was like, well, I'm a high school dropout. And I don't have any other aspirations in my life like right now. And the military was the way to go. So I joined the Navy. And this is when I started breaking free from cultural limitations. And then for the first time, I even remember when I was 13, my dad was like, you're never to marry an Australian boy, you're to marry somebody from our culture. And I just remember, I'm like, why can't you marry somebody you love, But at that time, I got older and there was just no stopping me. I was a rebel. My parents didn't know what to do, so that was like, would rather conform with her than let her rebel because she's just going to do it anyway. So I ended up meeting somebody in the Navy. I got married to him. I'm still bound by cultural, like I broke the chains. I didn't marry someone in our culture. Even though I knew that my ex-husband wasn't right for me, I was already in too deep and I couldn't really tell anybody, right? So I got married. I had children. I was very young. I was in my early 20s. I stayed in the Navy for 7 years and decided that it wasn't for me, because in that time I had babies and, and maternity leave. So it ended up being like 7 years. And then I decided to get out of the Navy because I was like, I'm not conforming to somebody telling me how to live, where to go. I was like done with getting told what to do. So as when I gave birth to my eldest son, it was so traumatic. The birth was really traumatic. And I was postpartum depression that I started suffering from quite severely. And he was very unwell. So I was really not coping, but I didn't know it at the time. I was just doing what a mum's meant to do and just belly floating, And as that happened, I was still in this negative mindset. I was postpartum depression, in deep. And then I decided that this marriage wasn't for me. And in our culture, it's like, no, like divorce is a no. But I was just like, I don't want to live unhappy like my mum and dad did. I'd rather raise my children around a positive environment than watching two toxic parents. So I made the decision that I didn't care what the culture said. I didn't care what anyone said. I was going to have a divorce. So I got divorced and I was with the boys, and I just felt so at that time, there was no self-love. There was no self-worth. I had really a lot of verbal abuse and a lot of demeaning comments from my family growing up, and that I internalized that as who I was. So I kept thinking, who's going to want me? I'm not as pretty as the other girls, or I'm not this, or I'm not. It was just a constant wheel of regret. Then thinking about everything else all my mistakes that I've done in the past. It was like a nonstop reel, and I was in this anxiety state. And in that time, I decided to, I was good at cooking. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to change my children's lives, and I'm going to go on this cooking show and I'm going to win it. I was ego driven, and my whole life I was that way because that's how I knew how to survive. And decision. At the time, I thought it was the worst decision of my life. After it went sour and it became a controversy, I got cyberbullied. I was like the biggest villain on this TV show. And I thought it was the end of the world at the time. I'm like, oh my God, I'm done. Like, I'm done. My whole life's over. I like messed up this great opportunity. And this is me also not conforming to people. I've never been that way. So, you know, during production and the manipulation of production, yeah, I started speaking up. And, but when you're in a low vibrational state, it just never turns out right. So that happened. And that was the moment when I had to watch these I never actually watched the whole show that I was on because I just couldn't. I knew how it ended. And I knew the power of editing and I just couldn't watch it. And that was the best experience of my life now, looking like now that I'm awakened. But it was the first time I had to realize I had to humble myself. And my ego was just way at the top. And I didn't need that kind of lifestyle. So that moment after that show, it triggered all my trauma from my childhood. It all resurfaced. Every memory that I had, you know, stored away in my mind started resurfacing, and I was really just going through it. So at that time, I met my current partner, now my husband, who is just the most phenomenal human being. And he really helped me through it. So after that, you know, I was going through it. My eldest son who has severe autism, and at the moment, you know, an acquired brain injury, and his disability is quite complex, and his behaviors are quite complex. So I was doing it by myself until he came along, and still not loving myself. So he was a knight in shining armor. I was lesser, and he was like, you know, got it all together. And you know, so I was still in that state of just not feeling like that self-love was not there. So we, you know, got together and everything was going, you know, it was up and down like a normal relationship. And then we got to the stage where I was going through this mental health journey. I had taken the steps. I was like, that's it. Like, I'm done. I have to change. And my depression and anxiety was so like, it was just a lot to take. So I was like, I have to do something about this. I actually ended up getting on anxiety medication and antidepressants because I was really at suicidal point at this stage. I was just couldn't handle the cyberbullying because I needed other people's validation. And I took what these, you know, cyber trolls were saying and I internalized it even more. So I started taking those steps, and he really did help me. Like, it was a safe place for me to fall on. And then as that was happening, I came to another pivotal moment. I had a child with my partner now, and I was like mourning at that time. I was grieving. I was so happy and elated with this baby boy because I realized I hadn't really enjoyed my two sons because my eldest, they were 19 months apart, and my eldest being so complex, it was like I was just barely floating, you know, just getting through the day. And I just remember going, wow, I didn't get to enjoy being a mom the first time around. And it was like a healing experience. Like, I was just found myself crying a lot, but it was happiness. And it was like, wow, I get to do this again. Thank you, God, for letting me have this opportunity to have this. I could cry, but it was just something I hadn't experienced because I was drowning. I don't know why I'm getting emotional, but after that, I realized how complex my son was, and it was starting to become problematic for the other children because he had a lot of violent tendencies and was really scaring the other boys with his behaviors. And, you know, we had made the decision that he needed 24-hour care. And that, as a mum, really blew my socks off because I was like, wow, I never thought in my life I would have to make this decision. And here I am making this decision. And it was like a rock and a hard place. I've got to make sure the other boys have a normal, functional life. And I've got to make sure he's taken care of. But at the same time, I'm a mum. And it was just, yeah, a rock and a hard place. So it was a few months of contemplating this decision. And then, you know, I knew there was a severe situation that happened that made me realize, like, it's not getting better and he does need 24-hour care. And I felt like a failure at the time because I'm like, how did I not fix this? Like, how, like, we put him in, you know, every therapy, but it just, you know, it's just the way my karma was. So I remember one day I was driving home and I was in my driveway and I was just like, God, please just tell me I'm doing the right thing. Just tell me I'm doing the right thing. Just keep showing me a sign. And I felt goosebumps through my whole body. And I was like, God, is that you? And then again, I felt goosebumps through my whole body. I was like, I got out of the car and I was like, that's strange. But I knew something weird just happened. And it felt so real. And I just knew that they were communicating with me. So after that, I went inside. My husband was sitting on the couch and I was like, wow, like something just crazy happened to me. And I was just telling him what happened in the car. And I get this telepathy, child, you have suffered and endured enough. It's okay to let go. He's going to be okay. And I remember going, oh my God, Andrew, I just got something, this voice in my head and it said this. And my partner was forever the skeptical. He's a realist, okay? But I think at the time he just wanted me to feel better. So he was just like, believe the voice, it's gonna be fine. Like, I think he just wanted me to feel better, really. I don't think he really cared about the voice in my head or whatever, but I just knew because I had experienced it as a child before a car accident happened. I heard a voice saying, put your seatbelt on now. And as soon as I was like in year 3 and I buckled my seatbelt in and we had a head-on collision. So I was just like, this has happened to me before. And I went to sleep. Like I was like, wow, that was crazy cool. Maybe that was God's way of letting me know it's going to be okay. And there was like a sign that my partner had told me that something happened. And I was like, okay, the sign, I asked for a sign. This is a sign. I got the telepathy. I woke up the next morning, get in the car. I try and play my regular gangster rap. And I could not listen to it. I was like, this is terrible. Oh my God, I can't listen to this anymore. And I didn't know what was happening. And I was getting telepathy. It was nonstop telepathy, telling me that I had to heal my chakras. I was getting also spiritually attacked. I didn't know what was going on. I was just like, am I going crazy? Like, why am I hearing all of this? I'm going crazy. Like, and even my partner at the time was like, are you sure? Like, you know, you're not losing your mind. I was like, no, like, I'm telling you, they tell me something and then it happens. Like, and I would be just crying nonstop. Like, I just was crying all the time. Like, this girl, anything. I was just like, oh my God, everyone's so beautiful. Like, I just started loving every single soul on this world. And I just was just like, what's happening to me? And I never thought spirituality in that way because I had already converted from Muslim to Christian at 27. So that in itself was a big deal in my culture. But I had always felt close to Jesus, in saying that I never conformed to a church or fundamental religion. I just always thought that was just not for me. So I was listening to a podcast, one of the, you know, in the early days, and it was about Jesus. And I got this, you know, telepathy, like Jesus isn't real. And this laugh, like it was like an evil laugh. Like I was like, what's happening? Why is my head doing this? And, you know, there's lower vibration souls. It's not like hell or heaven. It's like high vibration, low vibration. And I think at the time I couldn't control my gifts. It's like you know, I was just open target. So I was like working through it, calling on the angels, calling on Jesus in that time and trying to, you know, do this meditation to heal my chakras and things were happening to me in the meditations that I couldn't describe, like my whole body vibrating, light, like a white light going through my body. And one day I go, okay, like I want to meet my spirit guide. Like, who's my spirit guide? So I was like in a meditation, and I was doing a like guided meditation to connect with a spirit guide. And I had seen all these gold silhouettes, and one came forward, but it was my granddad, who I like adored when he was alive. Like, he was just like my favorite grandparent. And he just said a few things to me, and I was like, wow, is that real? Like, that's so strange. And that was when my third eye opened. And then the fear-based memory came back from my 12-year-old state. It was like, at that camp, they said the Antichrist had a third eye. Is this evil? What am I, or what am I doing right now? Is this evil? Like, is this, I was just, that fear-based memory coming back, and I just knew something, there was nothing evil about it. I just knew that the energy was love. And that was it. My granddad was with me for a few days, and then that was it. My third eye opened. I was at the shops. Spirits were coming to me, telling me, oh, that's my daughter. Can you pass a message? Or that's my son. And I was just like, I can't be at the shops anymore. I didn't know how to stop any of it. So I was just like, oh my God, this is too much. And it was until I went to work, and I told my client had known what was going on, and her husband had passed away a year ago, and she had deceased parents. So I, for the first time, delivered a message, because I also wanted to know that I'm not losing my mind. Like, what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing is real. So I gave her the message, and it was just accurate, and it was like perfect. She was like, I never gave you this information. There was no way you could possibly know this. I was like, okay, sweet. So at that point, I thought, I'm a medium. But I kept seeing people in the shops, and I see the word starseed. And I was like, yeah, that's weird. Maybe they're starseed. I don't know what a starseed like really is. Like, I knew that UFOs were real because I was actually watching people like Dr. Stephen Greer, but I had already had an experience doing the CE5 a few years ago, and it frightened me. So I had stopped doing that because I was like, oh my God, they're demons. So I stopped doing that. So it was kind of like I had the CE5 experience. I was going through a mental health journey. And I write this in my book, the 144K twin flame activations and the 666666 dominions. And guys, that number means life. It's not actually an evil number. That's what the Andronomans told me. But after that situation happened, I was just like, okay, I'm a medium. I had a past life regression. I don't know what happened, but I booked that past life regression like the day the second day after I got those goosebumps. I just knew I had to do it. And in that regression, I was, taken back to my past life. I was a Mayan chief. In my blueprint, I was actually meant to stop self-sacrifice rituals for warriors. And I actually died in that manner, although I brought peace to the region, and I just never used my throat chakra and said the truth. I died in that way, even though I didn't believe in that ritual. So as I was, taken out of my body, I was, saw a white light. I went to that white light. I went through my past life review, which that's when I seen what I did as a chief and why I failed, or not failed, but didn't accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. And then my higher self says, like, this was my only life on earth other than this life that I'm currently having. And I was like, my subconscious, I was just like, oh my God, what's coming out of my mouth right now? Like, this is just crazy. And then my higher self says, like, I'm from Arcturus, because I don't like to come to Earth because it's so dense. And I was like, Arcturus. And then they took me to Arcturus, and it was this blue planet with these red dwarf stars. And there was like a purplish overlay over the planet. I actually painted that 6 months before my awakening. I thought my imagination created this beautiful blue planet. It was actually Arcturus that I painted 6 months prior to my awakening. And I came out of this past life regression literally vibrating. Internally, I was like, it was like while I was driving home, I was laughing because I was like, I always felt like a weirdo. It always made sense. I'm an alien. I was like, this makes so much sense. Why I never felt like I fit in, like, to the societal norms of, being down here. And I was driving and I could see Arcturus in the sky, like you could see the moon internally vibrating. And that night, I went home, obviously, I went on YouTube and I was just like, who are these Arcturians? What is Arcturian? Who is an Arcturus? Like, I was just completely beside myself. So me and my husband were like YouTubing, and I see Arcturus, Arcturians and all this stuff about Arcturians. And I was like, wow, I can't believe this is happening to me right now. And all of a sudden I was just like, because I had in my past, like in this life and my past life being a Mayan chief, like there was a lot of aggression. And as a teenager, I was pretty like, yeah, I was the type of girl that, you'd look at me wrong and I would jump you, So I remember saying out loud, I'm not going to like mess up this lifetime like I messed up being a Mayan chief. I can't be aggressive or any of this stuff. And my ear starts buzzing. It's like, ding, 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 there you go, you got it, And that night I was getting ready for bed and I get a pressure in my nose and my third eye. And it said, like, greetings, this is the Arcturian collective. Now that you are aware of who you are, you have a soul contract to fulfill. You have free will to choose whether or not you want to fulfill this contract. And I was like, yeah, I want to fulfill it. They're like, before you accept it, things are going to get very hard before they get easy. Do you accept? And I was just like, yeah, what's the mission? Tell me what's up. I'm all in at this point. I'm like, there's no going back. I can't turn off my gifts. And in that regression, I knew that I was going to be a channel and, that my gifts were going to change and evolve. And they said, we need to heal you, and they did. They spent healing my physical body, telling me what to eat, what to drink. I can't tell you guys, like, the stuff that we're putting, the preservatives that we put in our bodies. Like, I couldn't understand why how they could see what I was seeing. I was just so gobsmacked. And they kept calling me the initial activator. And I was like, the initial activator, what does that even mean? Like, they're like, they gave me the download of my mission. And it was to write this book. And I started writing the book. I thought it was going to be about my awakening, about being a starseed, about open contact. I had no idea it would lead me down this rabbit hole of being what they call Dominion starseeds, which is 800,000 of us. And I was writing the book and I was trying to deal with these gifts, and they helped me a lot, telling me that I was getting spiritually attacked, that I needed to cleanse myself. They told me what to eat, what to drink. They spent nights healing me. And I had asked, before I even knew about the starseed, a few weeks prior, I said, who's my spirit guide? And I heard the name Iriel. And when I met the Arcturians, like in the astral planes, whatever was happening to me in the astral planes was happening to my physical body. I cannot explain it. Once I came into contact with the Arcturians, everything changed. My gifts changed. Everything. I went from being like the biggest carnivore that like raw meats and steak tartare, and I went vegan. My gifts were changing. I was getting downloads. It was just, full on. And I was just like, a bit kind of gobsmacked with the whole situation, to be honest with you. So that happened. My gifts changed. And then I realized, they were telling me that I had to close these poltergeists. Why I had to close these poltergeists was to help Gaia ascend, because, the way so at first I had an awakening. 1 month later, I had my starseed activation, and then I had a Kundalini awakening a month and a half after that. So I'm telling you, I was like, what's going on? Like, so as I was learning about being a starseed and what my missions were, and I had a telepathic message saying that the person that I'm with is not meant to be, like, he's not my, like, they said the word twin flame. I didn't even know what a twin flame was. And that him and I weren't meant to be together. And all of a sudden I started seeing everything that was wrong in our relationship. And it was just like a switch. I went from madly in love with him in the morning to completely just crying hysterically for months, like dealing with, I didn't know at the time what a Kundalini awakening was, what shadow work was, but then it all made sense when they said it's going to get really hard before it gets easy. And I understand it was a Kundalini awakening they were talking about, because this was just a lot. I'd built this family and now I'm questioning everything. And they basically said to me, this twin flame, the other twin flame, was a certain person that we had known. And it was funny because when I met that person, I was like, oh, like, we're so alike. Like, it was just like I knew him. I knew him so much, but it was like, as soon as that happened, obviously, like, feelings turned on for a second there, and I was just gobsmacked. I was like, why would I write this, like, in my right frame of mind, in my blueprint? Why? Like, I was so shocked. But the way things unfolded for me, being a Dominion starseed, is also means that we're in parallel lives in Arcturian bodies, Pleiadian bodies, because now I channel for like different star beings. The Arcturians introduced me to all these different star beings from the Galactic Federation, and I channel all the star seeds. So all the star beings for the star seeds. So when I do readings, I'm channeling. If it's like somebody that's a light worker, then the angels come through and I channel them. But basically I was just shocked. Like, why do I have to leave my family and, you know, like, leave this man? And then, but I could also see everything that was wrong in our relationship, and I was starting to really become miserable. I was like, this isn't for me. It was really difficult because the other person was married also. And the angels were saying, like, you know, adultery, infidelity is just not, it's not acceptable. Like, you cannot do that. That's just, you know, and I was just like, why is this happening to me? And I was so they said to me that I had to be completely honest with my partner. And I think this was a lot of my shadow work of my past catching up to me, because when I was a teenager, like, I was like a player. Like, I just was just like, a guy would like me, but I'll be like, no, he's new, like, someone else, thanks, see you later. Like, so I think it was my past, you know, my karma really catching up with me, and I had to sit there and be honest with him about everything. And the times where he was like, you know, there was a moment where he's like, do you have feelings for this person? I wanted to lie so badly, and I could hear the angels just no. And there was this, like, tight, there was this, you know, it's like my throat was getting tighter and tighter. I knew that they were, like, basically saying, you better not lie. And I, like, didn't lie. But this, I was, you know, in this dark night of the soul, and I couldn't understand what was happening to me. It was just so confusing. But the other twin flame, obviously, I knew could not do the shadow work. It was clear as day. So I was just like, why is this happening to me? So with the dominions and the 144, it's an energy, like, that we emit, a frequency that we have that awakens others. And our light transcends, and we can transmute darkness. And a lot of the dominions have had really hard upbringings, like traumatic upbringings, because we had to see the ugliness of the world, and plus we had to be born into families to cut these karmic, you know, wheels and break the chains for our ancestors, so we can, you know, our future children can prosper without these karmic ties connected to them. So they kept telling me, union's going to happen with this twin flame, union's going to happen. I was so confused. I was beside myself. In that time, my partner, I got to give him the credit, handled it like a gentleman. He was obviously broken. So was I. He could see something like something was happening to me. I was crying in the shower for 2 hours. I couldn't talk to him. I felt so alone. And, you know, friends were dropping off the face of the sun. Like, I was just like, now I understand why it's so hard. Like, this is just too much. And it actually all unfolded. They had told me that I was going to get clarity on this Friday. And that Friday came around, and it had been at this point 5 months of me facing all my shadows. So, guys, like when we talk about death, you know, it's literally us judging ourselves. And it's actually really hard because I found forgiving everyone was easy, but forgiving myself was so hard. So, what I got, the telepathic message, is if a Dominion can't do so, they're also in extraterrestrial bodies. But if a Dominion can't fulfill their shadow work, that energy will shift. It will be a soul swap. And my partner, all credit to him, was everything that I was bringing up to him about the things that he's done to make me feel so unhappy. He was changing, and I was getting messages from the divine creator and from the angels, and they were like, you know, he's genuine. But I was so confused. I was 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I was like, this is just the most weirdest thing. I was like really just going through it. And then that Friday I was just ready, and I got the message that, because I could hear telepathy from my twin flame, and I just wanted it to turn off. Like, I didn't want to hear what he was going through. I didn't care what he was going through. I just wanted it to turn off because it was just confusing me to no end. And they said that my twin flame, it's all in my book about actually what happened, guys. It's a long story, but there was a huge situation that happened, and basically, that my twin flame, instead of choosing forgiveness, chose retaliation, and that he couldn't carry the light that was needed to transmute because he chose darkness. So he had a soul swap, and then all of a sudden the light switch on again. And yeah, they said that Andrew's having a soul swap, and yeah, my partner started having an awakening. So that's where we're at now. It's all in the book, but that's the shortest version I can give you.
That was great. Wow, there's so much, but you did a great job explaining it. I just want to see if maybe you can share a little bit about, in case somebody doesn't know the language that we're speaking,
Okay.
about like what exactly is a star seed? What do you mean by 144,000? I'll just leave those questions out there.
Yeah. Okay. So a star seed is a soul that is a highly evolved soul, and they basically don't really incarnate on Earth. They incarnate in other extraterrestrial civilizations. And that's really what it is. And at this moment, there's millions of star seeds here on Earth, trying to change the energy of Gaia and help humanity, ascend to the 5-dimensional planes, So we're trying to basically help humanity evolve consciously so we can realize that we're not going to be living in fear anymore. And that's what light workers are doing as well. And that they're people that, come from, source energy, where we, if you want to call it heaven, but they're the people that come straight from source energy to Earth. And they're souls, pure souls that have come here to help, transmute, because there's so much darkness that we're trying to transmute it back into the light. And what was the other question, Betty?
The 144,000, what your book is named after.
So the 144,000 is 72,000 females and 72,000 males. Twin flames are one soul that they're angelic souls, and so angels can't just incarnate on Earth directly. This is why we have so many children with disabilities. We have so many adults with disabilities. These are angels, and this is what happens to the human vessel when they just straight from, you want to call it heaven or source energy or the high vibration. When they come straight to Earth, that's what happens. The vessel gets damaged. And what the 144K are and the 600,600, oh my God, I can't even say that number, but the 666 dominions are. So the 144 are guardian angel souls, and the other dominions, the 600,000 dominions, are of angelic souls. But to have functional human bodies, they had to incarnate in like ninth dimensional extraterrestrial beings, and they were using the Arcturian, this is an ET civilization, and the Andronoman technology to incarnate here on Earth. But all of the dominions and the 144 have some form of dyslexia, ADHD, and anyone that does have that is got gifts. It's not a debilitating disability or something that it's actually used so you can be in the two worlds at the same time.
Thank you for that explanation. Yeah. So I'm wondering, do you have any helpful tools for people if they want to get in connection with their spirit guides and find out more about their life or what's next?
So I think the best way to really do it is going to, start meditating, start healing, and forgiveness, forgiving others for everything and forgiving yourself. It is so important to forgive yourself, because your past regrets shouldn't be regrets. They're actually lessons, and you need to look at the negative stuff that you went through as a positive. There was a reason why you went through it. Your soul needed to learn. So if you are struggling with that, you need to find, the good in all of the bad situations that you've gone through. Another thing is meditation, and that is really good to build up your frequency vibration. And there are guided meditations that you can do, but I always suggest to everybody that start by doing the healing chakras, which are energy points. So, your third eye, your throat, they're energy points all through from the top of your head all the way through your body. And they usually are blocked because, we've held trauma or sadness or something's happened to us that's blocked these energy points. So the best way to really start tapping in is really unblocking the energy points. So I would start with meditations, doing healing chakras, because we all need to heal, the past.
Yeah, thank you for that. As you were saying it, I was thinking about, the healing of the constructs around religion, and thinking about how you not only dismantled the constructs around the Muslim faith, but also the Christian faith, and how much energetic spiritual work that must have been. And I'm curious, I know that you kind of talked about your immediate family with your partner and your kids, but what about your extended family? Like, do your parents know that this is kind of your new thing, or what's that been like for you?
So it's when I told my brother, I had always been the sibling that had it together. I'd always been the sibling that he would go to for help. When I actually told my brother, he just said, maybe you need to check yourself into a mental institute. This isn't real. And I was just like, that moment I had realized that through my whole life, my brother had degraded me. And it was a way that I was just like, oh, actually, you're not right. It doesn't matter if you're my blood. You're actually not good for me. So we don't talk. I don't talk to my dad. I had forgiven my dad a long time ago, but we don't have a relationship as it stands. My mum, I have told my mum, but I know the fear of her sisters and brothers finding out would be very hurtful to her social standing. But as I said to my mum, this is real. I'm not going to be afraid to, I'm going to say what I need to say. And if they don't want to be around me, if you need to disown me, just pretend that you need to disown me. It was just, I didn't care, because it's the old me, the unawakened me would have been like, I can't say that. Everyone's going to judge me. Everyone's going to do this. The awakened me is like, it is what it is. It's the truth. I'm not lying. So why should I sit there and hold it all in and not help other people know what it feels like to truly love yourself, to truly be okay with yourself? Why shouldn't I help people understand that there is life after death, that this is an illusion, this life is an illusion. We're in a dream state now. It's like we aren't human beings. Like, and you know, at the start when I told my mum, she was like, "Oh, what do you mean these blue beings?" You know, but my mum's been pretty supportive. But she's also seen things that's happened. For I'm going to give you an example for anyone that's, you know, struggling with reincarnation. Just on last Saturday, I have my baby boy. He's 18 months old, okay? And I got a download. He was dancing. There was a song, Return of the Mac, on these YouTube videos that we were playing music. My partner was playing music, and he dropped it like it was hot. It's like he knew this song, and I've never played it for him. And my husband was like, wow, it's like he knows this song. I instantly got a download, and the download said, his name was, we're looking for the family, so I don't want to say the name yet. His name was, and he died. And I saw a car hit this teenager. I was like, he was, you know, this how many years old? He died in 1999 in Oklahoma. And because I was kind of in a trance when I channeled, and I just was like, whoa. I was like, that's why he likes this song. Like for me, it's like I've already got the gift. So I'm like, you know, oh yeah, like that's reincarnation's real. And my partner was just like, you need to Google this. You need to Google this. If this is what you're saying is true, like it will be on Google, surely. And he's like forever the realist, right? And the first story I find was the same name, the same age, same way he died, all of it. So we're actually looking for the family now to let them know that their loved one that did pass on in such a traumatic way went up and now is reincarnated into my little boy. So
Wow, that's really beautiful. It reminds me of the Surviving Death docuseries. They did an episode about reincarnation. And yeah, it was a family who, when the boy was very young, he was telling his parents, hey, this is who I am. And then they found the other family. By the time that they had recorded this docuseries, the boy was already a teenager, and so many of those memories had left him, but they had already established a relationship with the family. I think that's really awesome, super
and actually
spectacular.
my little boy, I asked him, I said the name of that boy. I said, Ribs, were you know the name? And like my son doesn't always nod, like, you know, it's a hit and miss with an 18-month-old, right? And he was like he was dead serious. He was profusely like nodding, like, and me and my partner were talking about finding the family, and he was like, yes, yes. And I was just like, okay, he clearly wants us to find this family. We have to find the family, and we need to let them know that, you know, the soul's passed on and he's back. So for me, death is such an illusion. I don't believe in it anymore. So I'm just like, my children don't even, like my 10-year-old, my 11-year-old, they're just like, yeah, like you go and you know, they know. So it's like we're taking that stigma away from how devastating it is to making it it should be a celebration.
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking with somebody the other day, and we were talking about living each day as if it was going to be your memorial service or your funeral, and just really reacting to each day like that, talking to your
Yeah,
loved ones, connecting with them, and really embracing the now moment.
absolutely. I agree.
So I've really enjoyed this time together. Maybe we'll have a part two. I kind of want to put this out there for the audience.
Yeah.
So Hadil is a channeler. She's a psychic medium. She's a star seed. She has connection with these other beings. And so if there's questions that you want to ask her, please put them in the comments of this episode and we'll do a part 2. But before we end this episode, I just want to see if there's anything else that you'd like to share to feel more complete about our time together.
I feel complete every day of every minute. I am grateful for this opportunity, Betty, so I could shed some light for other people that aren't aware of these other star beings and that are worried about dying, or it's just, guys, there's no fear. There's nothing you need to fear about, and forgive yourself and be your weird, authentic selves with no apologies.
Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Betty. Thank you. Bye.